I want you to put yourself in a really specific scenario for a second.
Okay.
Imagine you're standing perfectly still. It's the cold, early morning hours of 1982.
Right.
You're alone on the pitcher's mound at Dodger Stadium, and you are completely blindfolded.
Wow.
Yeah, you are Steve Sachs, you're the National League Rookie of the Year, and you hold a baseball in your bare hand, you wind up and you throw it to first base.
And let me guess, it's a strike.
It is a perfect, flawless strike, and you do it again. Perfect. Without being able to see a single thing, your body just, it knows exactly what to do. The muscle memory is entirely dialed in.
Right, because he's a professional.
Exactly. But here's the mind-bending paradox of this whole thing. Later that day, you take the blindfold off. You are in a real game, millions of people are watching, and suddenly you physically cannot make that exact same throw.
It's just gone.
Gone.
Oh.
It sails wildly into the stands. I mean, what was once as natural to you as breathing has become an absolute waking nightmare.
It is, it's a terrifying phenomenon to witness, let alone to actually experience. And what's really happening there isn't a mechanical failure.
Right.
His arm didn't just forget how to throw a baseball. The breakdown is entirely psychological. It's the catastrophic result of self-surveillance.
Self-surveillance. I like that term.
Yeah. I mean, when he was blindfolded, he was just throwing. He was in the moment. But when the blindfold came off, he started watching himself throw, judging himself, and, worrying about the crowd's perception.
Which brings us perfectly to the core mission of our deep dive today. We are exploring the architecture of high performance, specifically looking at the research surrounding Jim Murphy's concept of inner excellence.
A fascinating concept.
It really is. We want to understand how our own minds turn into these fierce, paralyzing opponents, and more importantly, the actual mechanics of how to fundamentally rewire them.
Yeah, because we all have that blindfold moment in our own lives.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to set the stakes right now for you listening out there. Whether you are prepping for a really contentious board meeting or managing a chaotic startup team, or frankly, just trying to navigate your own daily anxieties, we are breaking down a masterclass in turning immense pressure into absolute presence.
And to do that, we really have to start by upending a very, very common assumption.
Which is?
Well, we typically view high performance and a happy, fulfilled life as two completely separate tracks.
Oh, sure.
In fact, we usually think they're at odds. Like we have this archetype of the miserable, obsessed athlete, right? Or the ruthless, burned-out CEO.
The idea that to be great, you have to suffer.
Right. The assumption is that if you want to win championships or build a massive company, you have to sacrifice your soul to get there. But the data...
And there's a lot of data.
Oh, tons. Yeah. Drawn from years of analyzing elite performers, including... the author spending extensive periods of isolation and research out in the Sonoran Desert. And all of it points to a massive paradigm shift.
Which is what?
The pursuit of extraordinary performance and the pursuit of the best possible life are, at their absolute core, the exact same path.
See, I'm going to need some convincing on that.
I thought you might.
Because when I look around the corporate world or professional sports, the highest achievers are often the most stressed out, paranoid people in the room. I mean, they win, sure, but they seem miserable.
Which is exactly what happens when you experience the paralysis of success,
right?
Rather than the paralysis of performance.
Paralysis of success.
Yeah. Take the case of Joe Ehrman. He's a former NFL star.
Yeah.
By every societal metric, he won the game. He achieved ultimate athletic glory, fame, immense wealth, public adoration.
Everything we're told we should want.
Exactly. But he looked back at the peak of his career and realized he was climbing a ladder that was leaned against the completely wrong building. He felt utterly empty.
Because every external validation he was promised would bring fulfillment actually just made him hungrier for something else. It's like drinking salt water.
That is a perfect way to describe it. In the research, this societal virus is literally referred to as affluenza.
Affluenza. Wow.
Yeah, because we are conditioned from childhood to constantly chase an acronym. PALMS. Oh. Right. That stands for possessions, appearance, looks, money, and status. We treat these external markers like finish lines.
Like, once I hit this revenue goal, I'll be happy.
Or, once I get this title, I will finally feel secure. But it's a zero-sum, finite game. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what actually drives human fulfillment.
Hold on, though. Status and money. I mean, that is the entire bedrock of modern ambition.
It is.
You're telling me elite high performers just ignore the scoreboard entirely. Isn't it just human nature to want to win? I mean, if we drop the desire for status and money, don't we just lose our competitive edge and sit under a tree somewhere meditating all day?
Not at all. It's not about killing your ambition, right? It's
Right.
about changing its fuel source.
Okay, explain that.
If you look at Abraham Maslow's studies of self-actualized people, historical giants who completely reshaped the world like Lincoln or Einstein, they didn't lack ambition,
Obviously not.
but they moved entirely beyond what Maslow called deficiency needs.
Meaning they weren't operating from a place of lack. They weren't trying to fill a hole in their ego.
Precisely. They weren't driven by comparison or this, desperate need to prove something to the world. They redefined success entirely.
So what drives them then?
True high performers, the ones who sustain excellence for decades without destroying their mental health, they're driven by an inner compass of growth. They pursue what the ancient Greeks called Zoe, which means the absolute fullness of life.
Zoe. I like that.
Yeah. And the trophies, the promotions, the wealth, those just become natural byproducts of a mind that is fully engaged in the present moment rather than a mind desperate for future validation.
Okay, that makes logical sense. But you'd think knowing that status is a trap would be enough to free us from it.
You think so?
But the reality is, the moment we try to detach from those external validations, we immediately hit a wall. Our own minds violently resist.
Oh, absolutely.
And that leads us into the internal sabotage systems. If we're trying to operate without caring what others think, the mind just panics and deploys its defense mechanisms.
It acts like a highly aggressive, overzealous security system. And this system has 3 distinct alarms, or internal obstacles, that work relentlessly against our progress.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, you have the trickster. This is the cognitive distortion that traps you in past mistakes. It basically plays your previous failures on an endless, high-definition loop, so that any new risk you consider taking feels irrationally dangerous.
So the trickster ensures you are terrified to even step into the arena in the first place.
Right.
And if you do manage to push past it, you instantly meet the second alarm, which is the critic.
Yes. The critic is that internal voice of perfectionism that notices every tiny little flaw in your execution and inflates it into a massive emotional roadblock.
Right, like you stumble slightly during a presentation, and the critic uses that as absolute proof of your total inadequacy.
Exactly. And finally, you have a monkey mind.
Which is probably the one we are all most familiar with on a daily basis.
Without a doubt. The monkey mind is the mechanism of fractured attention. It pulls your focus in 100 different directions simultaneously.
I mean, if you're listening to this deep dive on your commute right now, think about what your brain is doing at this exact moment.
It's probably everywhere.
Right. You're probably half listening to our voices, half worrying about an email you have to draft when you get to the office, and, half stressing about the traffic merging up ahead.
That completely shattered attention, that is
Sure.
the monkey mind actively blocking your ability to enter a flow state.
And all 3 of these mechanisms, the trickster, the critic, the monkey mind, they share the exact same goal, right?
Yes. They're all designed to protect your ego.
And there is this incredible historical narrative in the research that shows just how devastating this ego protection can be and how deeply it runs in human psychology.
Oh, the samurai story.
Yes, the story of Koyama Bunpachiro. He was a samurai in feudal Japan, and actually he's the great-grandfather of the researcher behind these concepts.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize the personal connection.
Yeah, it's wild. And Bunpachiro's entire life was built on the ultimate external discipline. To be a samurai meant putting your country and your master above yourself to the point of waking up every single day ready to die.
It is the ultimate commitment to an external role, a role defined entirely by status and service to a strict hierarchy.
But then, in 1867, the world flipped upside down. 2.5 centuries of samurai rule just abruptly ended.
Overnight.
Almost overnight. And suddenly, Bunpachiro's elite status, his incredible power, the very thing he had sacrificed his entire existence for, it just vanished.
And because his entire identity and self-worth were tethered to this external role, something he ultimately could not control.
The psychological whiplash completely crushed him. He lost his purpose and descended into severe alcoholism.
It's a tragic illustration of how fragile we become when we attach our worth to that POLMS acronym. When your value is tied to your status, the loss of that status feels like literal death to the ego.
So the mind acts like this hyperactive bodyguard. The trickster, the critic, and the monkey mind. They think they are protecting us from experiencing the kind of agonizing ego death that Bunpachiro felt.
Right, they're trying to help.
They keep us obsessing over status to keep us safe. But by constantly guarding the ego, they actually ruin our performance.
You've just synthesized the foundational premise of ultimate performance blocks. Self-centeredness, which is really just the desperate, exhausting protection of the ego, is the root cause of all fear.
All fear.
All of it.
Yeah.
It leads to self-consciousness, over-analysis, and eventually total self-rejection. The greatest challenge in any competition, whether you're staring down a pitcher or pitching a venture capital firm, is the mastery of the ego. That is the true opponent.
All right, so if the ego is the opponent, my instinct is to just fight it.
Yeah, that's what we all do.
Right. I want to suppress the monkey mind. I want to argue with the critic. I want to force myself to focus. But I'm guessing that just creates more friction.
Oh, absolutely. You don't fight the software. You overwrite the operating system entirely.
Overwrite it.
Yes. You have to replace the flawed assumptions running your mental hardware. We all carry these deeply ingrained presuppositions like, I am my thoughts, or my value is based on my measurable results.
Which we just learned is dangerous.
Right. So to achieve inner excellence, you have to drive new, empowering presuppositions deeply into the subconscious until they become your default reaction.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of this. What are the big ones we need to install?
Let's start with a concept. The map is not the territory.
The map is not the territory.
Exactly. This borrows heavily from cognitive psychology and linguistics. And the classic visual for this is René Magritte's famous 1929 painting, The Treachery of Images.
Oh, the pipe painting.
That's the one. It's a hyper-realistic painting of a pipe, but beneath it, the text reads, "This is not a pipe."
Because it's not a pipe. It's just a representation of a pipe. You can't, stuff it with tobacco and smoke it.
Exactly. The point is really profound for high performers. Your perception of the world is just a mental creation. It is a map you've drawn based on your past experiences, your specific traumas, and your localized fears.
Right.
It is not objective reality. So when your critic tells you that a failed meeting means your career is completely over, that's just a terrifying map.
It's not the actual territory.
No. And when you realize the map is not the territory, you stop taking your anxious, worst-case scenario thoughts as literal facts. You recognize them as just data points.
Which gives you distance. You stop being owned by the thought.
Exactly.
But then there's the second major presupposition in the research, and I feel like this one is a massive hurdle for a lot of people.
Good one.
Everything works for your good. This is the radical belief that every single circumstance, every failure, every toxic interaction is specifically designed to teach you and help you.
It is the ultimate refrain.
But I have to push back hard here.
Go for it.
Because it is very easy to say everything works for your good when your flight gets delayed or, you lose a minor client. You just find the silver lining.
Sure.
But what about real trauma? What about physical danger or tragedy or systemic injustice? Isn't telling yourself this is for my good just, toxic positivity? Isn't it just self-delusion?
That skepticism is entirely natural. I hear it all the time. But let's look at how this mindset actually functions in extreme scenarios.
Okay.
Take the case of Ryan Dodd. He's a professional water ski jumper. And, if you aren't familiar with the sport, these athletes hit fiberglass ramps at 70 miles per hour.
70 miles per hour on water.
And they launch themselves over 200 feet through the air.
Which is terrifying just to even think about. It requires absolute flawless execution.
Well, in 2011, right after winning the gold medal at the King of Darkness tournament, Dodd woke up in an alley in Flint, Michigan.
What?
Yeah. He had suffered a fractured skull and had bleeding in his brain in 3 different areas. He required emergency surgery just to survive.
I mean, that is the textbook definition of trauma. That is a career-ending, potentially life-ending event.
But here's what happened next. Without significantly changing his physical training volume, because he literally physically couldn't, Dodd miraculously recovered.
Oh.
He got back on the water, won the Masters tournament, became world champion 3 times in a row, and broke world records.
You're kidding.
Nope. He achieved an absolutely staggering 87% win rate over a 4-year period against the best in the world.
Okay, wait. How does a positive mindset heal a fractured skull? Positivity doesn't stitch brain tissue back together.
It doesn't heal the bone directly, no.
Mm.
But here is the biological and psychological mechanism behind it. When you panic over a trauma, when the monkey mind takes over and obsesses about your career ending, your body is flooded with cortisol.
Right, the stress hormone.
Exactly. Your nervous system locks into fight or flight mode, which literally stunts the body's physical recovery processes and drastically impairs muscle memory.
Oh.
By adopting the radical presupposition that even a fractured skull was the teacher, Dodd completely bypassed the panic response.
He didn't fight reality.
No. He eliminated the cortisol spike. He shifted his entire inner narrative from a fear-based life of protecting his ego to a purpose-driven life of total presence. He kept his nervous system in a state of flow, which optimized his body's ability to heal and kept his athletic instincts incredibly sharp.
So he chose to believe it was for his good, and that belief literally altered his biological reality. It changed the map, so it changed his physical response to the territory.
It proves that this isn't about ignoring reality. It's about optimizing your response to it.
So how do you actually run this software when the stakes are at their absolute highest? Because understanding this philosophy is great for a quiet Sunday morning.
Right, sitting with a cup of coffee.
Exactly. But when you are in the middle of a chaotic quarter, when the pressure is immense and your heart is pounding, how do elite performers execute this in real time?
The execution relies on a highly structured framework, starting with 3 pillars: love, wisdom, and courage.
Love, wisdom, and courage.
And we have to redefine these words away from their, greeting card definition.
We're not talking about romance here.
Exactly. In this context, love is training the heart with the active willingness to serve and sacrifice for the moment, rather than trying to extract validation from it.
Okay. And wisdom.
Wisdom is the cognitive ability to see beyond the immediate chaotic circumstance, to maintain the big picture that this obstacle is teaching you something vital.
And courage. Because usually we think of courage as like running into a burning building.
Right. But here, courage is the stamina to actually face your fears, your physical pain, and your unwanted feelings, instead of stuffing them down, running away, or numbing out with distractions.
So it's the capacity to feel the tension and just stay in it without panicking.
Precisely. And practically, those 3 pillars translate into what the research calls the 4 daily process goals.
The daily checklist for high performers, let's hear it.
Goal number 1, give it your absolute best shot, completely regardless of the outcome. You detach from the result.
Detach from the result. Okay.
Goal 2, be fully present. You rein in the monkey mind.
Right.
Goal 3, be grateful. You actively seek out the lesson in the struggle. And goal 4, focus strictly on your routines and only the variables you can actually control.
Okay, I love those. But there's a final piece to this puzzle, right? The real tactical tool for a boardroom or a stadium.
Yes, the ideal performance state, or IPF.
IPS.
This is where you clarify your emotional targets. You define what you want to feel, WTF, versus what you don't want to feel, DWTF.
WTF and DWTF.
Right. You don't just hope you feel confident on the day of the big pitch. You proactively identify 3 to 5 words that describe your state of mind during your best past performances.
Give me an example.
Maybe your WTF state is electric, grounded, and generous. You actively train your mind to access that specific state through visualization and breathwork, overriding the DWTF state of anxious, rushed, and defensive.
I love how this completely inverts how we view competition.
How so?
Well, if you are operating inside this framework, you no longer look at an opponent or a difficult colleague as a threat that needs to be destroyed. You view them as a partner in the dance.
A partner in the dance.
Their only job, their entire function in your life at that moment is to push you to a higher level of excellence so you can expose your own weaknesses and learn about yourself.
And if you want concrete proof of this framework thriving in ultimate chaos, look at the viral moment involving A.J. Brown.
The phenomenal wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's the one. We are talking about an NFL playoff game. The noise is deafening, the physical violence on the field is extreme, and the pressure is unimaginable.
As high stakes as it gets.
During the game, the broadcast cameras caught him sitting on the sidelines. And he wasn't reviewing plays on a tablet or hyping himself up.
What was he doing?
He was literally sitting on the bench reading a physical copy of a book detailing these exact inner excellence principles.
Wait, reading a mindset book in the middle of a playoff game?
A physical paperback book.
Yeah.
The contrast is unbelievable.
That's amazing.
His teammates actually referred to the book as the recipe. He told reporters he brings it to every single game to anchor his nervous system.
Wow.
He has specific passages highlighted about surrendering the need for control and learning to genuinely love the challenge of the moment. He wasn't reading for new information, right?
Right. He already knows what the book says.
He was using the text as a psychological anchor to quiet the monkey mind, drop his cortisol levels, and immediately re-enter his ideal performance state before stepping back onto the field.
He was actively maintaining his map in the middle of a hostile territory.
Exactly.
Which honestly brings us full circle. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want you to remember that whether you are trying to throw a baseball to first base, whether you're launching off a water ski ramp with a fractured skull, or whether you are just walking into a deeply tense meeting with your department, the real opponent is never sitting across the table from you. The opponent is not the roaring crowd, it's not the pitcher, it's not the micromanaging boss or the failing economy. The real opponent is only the loss of vision that happens when your own ego feels threatened. True success, true Zoe, is living a life fully engaged, heart first, performance second.
Because when you train the heart to love what is empowering, rather than fearing what is uncontrollable, the external results genuinely take care of themselves.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you step back into your day. Think about your most frustrating rival right now. Maybe it's that difficult client, a fiercely competitive peer in your industry, or even a family member who always pushes your buttons.
We all have one.
We do. If, as this research suggests, they are not actually your enemy, but merely your partner in the dance sent specifically to expose the hidden vulnerabilities in your own ego, how does that radically change the way you interact with them tomorrow morning? Imagine standing on that pitcher's mound, feeling the cold air, hearing the crushing weight of expectations from the crowd. Now imagine simply taking off the blindfold, looking around, and realizing there was never anything to be afraid of in the first place.